Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to one of my favorite videos of the year, tier ranking all the books I've read so far. I think I smiled this entire book. Possessive over it? Yeah, that is how I feel. Babe, like, maybe you shouldn't have done that. I don't really mess with that type of stuff. It made me question book talk. Found something like this to obsess over. I feel like I really needed that. It feels like you're reading someone's real life story. This has been a tradition over here for, I think this might be like the third year of doing this. I usually do two, one right now in June/July and then one at the end of the year, of course. Let's just hop right into it. I am really excited because I feel like this year I read so many amazing books. I definitely read less than normal, but I think just the average rating is up so far this year. So let's just hop right into it. If you're peeping my computer case, it's from Burga. We love Burga over here. Okay. I think we are screen recording, so let's go through the tiers. So on the bottom we have no thank you. I do have a couple DNFs for this year, so this is just going to be DNFs and or books that I just did not really enjoy. And just like no thank you, like erase it from my brain. My year would be better off if I didn't read it. Not memorable would be books that I still maybe enjoyed, but I have not thought twice about since reading them. I would maybe recommend them, but they're just kind of mid and meh and whatever. And then enjoyable, this is kind of like the 3-4 star range. Books that I really enjoyed and I do think about sometimes, but not books I think about super frequently or that really stuck with me, or characters that really stuck with me, or just there may have been something in the book that I did not like how it was done or whatever. And we have great read. This is a great read. This is a book that I think about frequently and maybe will be in my top books of the year list, and just one that I will always recommend and that I really enjoyed and it made my year better. New all-time favorite, this is going to be, of course, books that didn't just make my year but made my life and I will think about for the foreseeable future. These are the categories. I feel like I normally have a couple more because I normally read more books that could fit into different categories, but this year I really don't know if I need more categories for this. Most of these are in order-ish. Like, they might be a little bit out of order, but for the most part they're somewhat in order. Looking at this, I feel like I didn't read much. Oh, it's gonna make me sad. First up, we have my first read of the year, which is Long Shot. I'm kind of between these two. Like, hey, we're already indecisive and it's the first book. I think I'm gonna put it in great read. I feel like I've talked about this book a lot. This was the first book I read this year and it definitely hit me really hard. This was also my first Kennedy Ryan book and it will not be my last. I loved her writing and I loved her characters. It really helped me process a lot of feelings I was having, good and bad feelings I was having, and it just really made an impact on my life, this book did. But part of me doesn't know if it should be in new all-time favorite because I don't think about it as much, but also I feel like that's because it's such a hard read and it brings up negative or hard to think about emotions for me, so like I don't want to think about it, if you know what I'm trying to say. It was a way to start off the year, let's just say that. This is kind of a sports romance, but it's also so much more than that. Definitely check trigger warnings if you are interested in this book. I really enjoyed the sports romance aspect because that's just kind of like a setting I always eat up. I love like someone's like a famous basketball player. This book was basketball, and the romance in this was stunning, absolutely stunning. Kennedy Ryan just has a way with writing where she was able to put feelings I've felt before into words like this, and some of the quotes in this book just stuck with me still to this day. It was an extremely hard to read story, but it was also an extremely beautiful story. Can't wait to read the rest of the series. Like, thank God this is a series. And then this book is a DNF. Oh, actually my DNFs are back to back. That's great. Okay, so this was one of my book club's books, and honestly this series I have always been interested in. I actually had the third one on my physical TBR, the Little Mermaid retelling, and then this one is the Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it sounded really interesting. I've always been like a Disney princess girl. I've loved every single princess movie. I've seen every single one like countless times, and that was like my thing as a child. I loved Disney princesses. I mean, I still do, but like whatever. So I was so excited for this. It just was not for me, let's just say that. The writing was not the best in my opinion, and also the main character in this, she was insufferable, like genuinely insufferable. I could not get through this book. Part of it also I feel like was, since it was a book club book, I like had to read it, so I guess I kind of forced myself to read it. But even doing that and even forcing myself and skimming, I could not get into this. We had a book club meeting talking about it. I just had them spoil it for me. Sometimes with books like that, it makes me want to read it more because I'm like, how did we get to this point? I heard how it ended and some of the things that happened. I'm like, yeah, I have no interest in that, and I'm so glad I did not continue this. So this is going in no thank you because I DNF'd this. I couldn't even get through this book skimming it, so it was not for me. So no thank you. Dungeon Crawler Carl. We are putting this right into great read. This was a book that I feel like is so beloved and everyone is reading it and loving it, and so I went into this kind of expecting to love it, or I was expecting not to like it because I have never read anything like this, but I ended up absolutely loving it. I think this book can be intimidating to go into because it's like a sci-fi reality TV show, whatever, where the main character is like a guy and it's written by a man, and I don't typically read that really, but I really enjoyed this, and I thought it was so funny and so fun and fast-paced, and just it was honestly a great like comfort read. Like, although they're battling monsters and fighting for their lives essentially, it's still like a comforting read because it is so funny, and I don't want to say found family, but it is kind of like found family because they're in this life or death situation together. It was beautiful and I love their dynamic so much. I think I smiled this entire book and it was so fun. I will say though, it's definitely harder to picture kind of what's going on because they're in this dungeon basically and they're fighting all these different monsters, and I just don't know what the monsters look like. And I think at the start of the third book he actually has an author's note about that, and he's just saying like it doesn't really matter, just that they push on, whatever. So that's really nice that he acknowledges that, but I really like this. Even with the not being able to picture everything perfectly, I think it was still super well done, and this is a series I am so excited to keep reading. So definitely a great read. I think about these characters a lot, and this book series is just always in the back of my mind that I want to read that again. It's just such a massive series that it's like intimidating, but they're so fun. And then my other DNF of the year, we have Liar's Beach. So this was in my highest and lowest rated on Goodreads video. This was the lowest rated. I think it had like a 3.02 or something horrible. This was the Barnes & Noble $5 cafe pick a couple years ago, and I thought it sounded fun because I actually do really enjoy YA books, and this is a YA murder mystery at like Martha's Vineyard, whatever. So that sounded right on my alley, and it's a super short book. But when I got into the book and started reading it, I quickly realized that it was the lowest rated on Goodreads for a reason, which I feel like that did kind of give me a negative idea of the book going into it, like seeing the rating. But I still think I was able to go into it with a good mindset because the video I was filming for it was super fun. So I was still excited, and still having a 3-star read out of it would have been fine, but this was, I could not get through it. The main perspective in this is a teenage boy, which is fine, whatever. But the way his brain worked, I just was not interested in reading about it. It was just them partying on Martha's Vineyard, him being like, I'm so different from everybody, and them just talking about girls and drinking, and part of the time they acted like rich brats. Like the way they treated a server at a restaurant they were at, I could not. That's something that pisses me off so bad. So I DNF'd this, and I didn't look back because it was not for me. I think I did skim a little bit until like the murder mystery, whatever happens, and I just did not care. And there were so many characters in this book. I had no clue who was who the entire time. I mean, kind of deserted on the Goodreads rating, but yeah. Before We Were Strangers, this book I have had on my physical TBR for probably 3 or 4 years, and it's always been a book that I've been interested in reading, but didn't feel like it was the right time, and I felt that I was gonna love it. So I was putting it off and putting it off, whatever. But I didn't really end up liking it as much as I thought I would. I felt like it was missing something, and it just really didn't stick with me at all. And there's kind of 2 timelines going on, the past and the present, and I just feel like the present one was not done the best, I want to say. I think it was kind of fast paced, and there were some things in it that I'm like, you should have just told each other that. So yeah, I just didn't really connect with the characters either at all in this. And I did think it was fun though, because I think the past timeline was set in the 90s, and they really shared a love of music. Like they talked about music a lot, so that was something I really liked because there were a lot of songs in this mentioned that I love personally. I liked that, but I just didn't really connect with the characters or care about them or care about their romance, and I don't know, I just didn't really root for them, I guess. Like they were cute, but it wasn't like they were a couple I really cared about. This was just like the classic, they had a past and then something happens. I don't even remember what that something was, genuinely. And then they don't talk for however, and then they see each other again. I'm like, okay, yeah. Oh my gosh. This book is kind of hard to put here because the writing and the storyline was good, but just the trope in this book I could not get past at all. It is not something I would have read had I known what the trope was. And again, this was our book club. I feel like just has such a bad rap this year because like these two books not good. But with June 1st, I really liked the writing and everything, but again, the trope just really put it off for me. And I think all of us in the book club agreed on that. And we also thought that if we would have known what it was about before going into it, we wouldn't have read it. I'm not going to get into it too much because I don't want to just like sit here and harp on a book, which I feel like I already did with these two. But yeah, it was just not for me. But like I said, I did like the writing, and I think if the story would have just had a slight pivot, it would have been so much better and would have been a good book, like probably a 4-star read, but it's down here because I could not support that. This was another book club book. I think I'm gonna put this in enjoyable, but I'm kind of borderline not memorable. I read this book really fast. I think I was sick or something when I read it, and I wanted something to read. And this actually kept me in the reading mood when normally I just wanted to like watch reels or something. But this, I enjoyed it while I was reading it, but I have not thought about it since after. So in this book, you're following 2 timelines, and the first one is this guy and his girlfriend goes missing. And so he's looking for her everywhere, but everyone kind of thinks he did it. Like he kidnapped her, or killed her or whatever, but he's still looking for her, whatever. And you don't know if he like actually killed her or not. So it's kind of like, what's going on here? And then you're following another timeline, and it is this girl who wakes up on the side of the ditch injured, and someone picks her up and then claims to be her father, but it's like kind of a sus situation because she doesn't remember anything on if he's actually her father. So you're following those 2 timelines, and I think that this book was definitely very interesting, but it wasn't necessarily thrilling. It was very mundane and kind of boring at some places, but like I said, I was sick and I wanted to read, so I kept going with it and was having a good time. But I think that if I would have read it at a different time, I would have been a lot slower to read it and not as interested because not a lot really happened. And at the ending, it definitely felt kind of rushed and like we just didn't do anything, and then we just got to that point. It's like, okay. But yeah, the ending was pretty shocking, but it wasn't like insane, you know what I mean? And I think just mostly it's in this category because I read it at the perfect time when I was sick and in the mood for a thriller, which normally I'm not. I really don't know where to put this. I kind of hate to do this. I actually hate to do this, but I think I'm gonna put it here. I have not thought about this book since I finished it. Huge props to Haley for writing this book and publishing it, and it was such a beautiful story, but I just think that it wasn't for me. I think that it was very summary and all the things, but I just think specifically in more YA-like romances, I am kind of straying away from those because I want a deeper connection, and not that this didn't have that. And I think that there was just a lot going on trying to be balanced at one time. Like Declan played football, he was making bird catchers, he was nerdy, he was just doing too much. Like I feel like there was just a lot going on, and finding that balance wasn't really there. But I do still think this is a cute like summer fun read, and I definitely wanted to support Haley, and I do obviously love her so much, but I just don't find myself thinking about this book. But like I said, I'll definitely continue to support her books. I know she's writing her second one, so I still will read that. But this was just not something I think about ever, and the characters didn't really stick with me, and there were some times where I didn't really care for our characters. The best worst thing, woohoo. I'm kind of between these two for this one. I think I might put it like I always did at the top of this category. When I finished this, at first I was like 4.5, loved. But I think after finishing it, I haven't really thought about it. I really enjoyed it, but I don't know if it's quite at the level of these two, in the sense that I don't think about it as much as I think about these two up here. But I do still think this was an amazing romance story, and I really loved Lauren Oakey's writing, and I know she just came out with another book, so I'm so excited to get to it. This follows our main couple, and they are trying really hard to get pregnant, but it has been such a struggle for them. Then it comes out that our main girl's husband is cheating on her with the dog walker. She ends up reconnecting with one of her old high school or college friends, and their connection was absolutely beautiful. It was just written in such a realistic way, and I think this book did a really good job of the balance between other plot stuff going on and also the romance, and I think that it was just done super well and such a beautiful story. But I just don't find myself thinking about it, and there's not like a specific reason why, I just don't, but like seriously still probably one of my favorite romances of the year. Then we have The Deal. See, putting these two in enjoyable makes me rethink these two in enjoyable. These were miles better than these in my opinion. Maybe, yeah, I think I like that. I think we're kind of rephrasing what, okay, we just changed some categories up. I still think these need to be separated because in my mind they're definitely on two different levels, but this feels good. Anyways, back to The Deal. I think that reading this after watching the show enhanced my experience of reading the book. They're definitely very different, and I can say I prefer the show. But I think going into the book, having the casting in my mind and just, you know, the chemistry from the characters on the screen made the reading experience so much better. I think for sure if I would have read this before watching the show or years ago, I would not have liked it as much. The entire time I was just picturing my besties from the TV in this show. Reading it during my peak obsession with the show was perfect. After watching the show, it was all I could think about. It consumed my life, and so reading this during the peak of that was absolutely perfect. I would not have wanted to read it at another time. This was just so enjoyable. I love Garrett Graham so much, and I'm so excited to continue this series, and I'm so just excited to have found something like this to obsess over. I feel like I really needed that, an unhealthy attachment. Why is June 1st in here twice? This one I think I'm going to put in great read, but it's borderline new all-time favorite. But in the Abby Jimenez hierarchy, I do think that Just for the Summer and Say You'll Remember Me I enjoyed more than this one. So that is why it's not going to go in here, because those have the crown of new all-time fave. And like we talked about, this is the all-time faves, not just from the year, all-time favorites. Abby Jimenez, I think, will never have a book in a lower category than this for me. This had everything I want in a book. It was funny, it was sweet, it was emotional, and I loved the main guy character in this so much. There's definitely things about this book that weren't perfect, but I think that's what Abby Jimenez does such a great job of, showing real like romances and their imperfections and all of that. The main guy in this, he just had such good love languages, and just he is my dream guy essentially. Another 5-star banger from my favorite romance author. This one I'm going to put in great read as well. This is like borderline all-time favorite, but again in the Kristen Hanna hierarchy, I think after reading The Nightingale by her and knowing what the level of an all-time favorite is for a Kristen Hanna book, I think it goes in this category, because The Nightingale is just, I can't even think about that book. So this follows our main family, and the father in this, he comes home from war a changed man. And when he comes back, he's kind of just has a bunch of ideas in his head, and so he wants to move the whole family to rural, you know what I mean, Alaska, where they live is like super out in the middle of the woods, and so they're kind of living off the land there. Alaska is obviously brutal in the winter, so the whole book is kind of them preparing for winter, and that's just always something in the back of these Alaskans' mind, is wintertime in the wilderness. While you're in that cabin with them, you're also following their family dynamics, and our main girl, as she starts a new school up there, meets new people, learns new things, and just kind of learning a new environment. And maybe this should go an all-time favorite. Yeah, I think that feels good. I'm just remembering more about this book, and I'm like, oh my god. This book had everything. It had genuinely everything. This is exactly the type of book that I've been trying to read more of this year. I love Kristen Hanna. If you have not read a Kristen Hanna book, you have to. I have read 3 of her books, and they've all been 5 stars or 4.5. She just can story tell. And yeah, this felt just absolutely so realistic. And same when I read The Nightingale and The Woman by her, it just feels like you're reading, I want to say like a textbook, but it's more interesting than textbook obviously. It feels like you're reading someone's real life story during this time, and that is what I love in a historical fiction book. Like, I don't want to read a textbook or something unrealistic. I want to read this that feels like it's a real person, and that is why I loved it so much, because I learned a lot from her book, and I learned a lot about Alaska and the types of people she came in contact with and her family, and I loved it. I'm content with this category. I think it definitely deserves it. Oh my gosh, hey, another one in this category. I feel like I've talked about this book so much, but seriously, it belongs in this category so much. Reading this book, it felt like one of those things that you ever just like watch something or listen to a song and you're just like, this is mine. Like, this is mine. You're like possessive over it. Yeah, that is how I feel with this book. It just hit. Like, it just clicked in my brain that it was perfect for me, and I read it at the perfect time, and I connected so deeply to the characters and everything. I completely fell in love with this story, the characters, the writing, the storytelling, everything. So this follows our main girl, and she is living this life in Hollywood where she's on this super popular TV show, one of the main characters in it. She's not really happy with her life though, so one day she books a trip to Ireland, and when she gets there, she's essentially transported into another path of her life if she would have chosen to live there earlier. I love that in a book. I love a book that makes you really think about your own life and what you would do if you were in that situation. I just can't express how much I love this book, and I feel like I never shut up about it, so I'm gonna try and shut up about it now. But yeah, when this author comes out with other books, I will be reading it like release day, because holy crap. The Correspondent, I'm gonna put this in great read. I think that this is a really beautiful story. This book is told exclusively throughout letters and like emails and just stuff like that. So it's really different, but I still think that I was able to connect with the characters, but maybe not as much as I would have if it was a normal book, which obviously that's the point of it, is to be told that way. But I did think at the beginning it did take me a while to grasp like who was who and all of that, but I still gave it like 4.55 stars because the way it's told was so different and unique, and I loved that. You just get so attached to the characters, and at the end of the book I was just unwell throughout the story and hearing about our main character's life, and this was just so beautiful. And especially with it being told through emails and whatever, some of the ones you got and some of the people you met through those was actually beautiful. Our Perfect Storm, I'm gonna put this one in good. It's hard for a romance like this to really stick with me and become an all-time favorite, but I think this was, again, a great time. It really put me in the summer spirit, and I really enjoyed Carly Fortune's writing. Some of her other books I haven't enjoyed as much, but her newer ones have been just getting better and better, and this was no exception of that. And I loved the trope in this, the friends to lovers. I think that's just such a good trope because they know each other so well, and it's always just like one of them's like yearning for the other for so long. Yeah, the setting was super fun, as all of hers are. This one I'm also kind of between new all-time favorite and great read, but I think I'm going to stick it in great read. This book was so impactful, and this is one that I've known I was going to love, and I really connected to our main character in this book. I think her name's Phoebe. She just was able to make so many feelings be relatable and just make the story feel so real and realistic, and I loved everything and how it unfolded. And I think that although there may have been some things that our main characters did that I didn't agree with or that I think should have been done differently, that's the part of reading I love, is when you connect so deeply with the characters when they do make a mistake or just something that you think should have done differently. It's like, that's the point, because you're so connected to them that you're like, no, like you should have done this. Like, it's almost like you're talking to a friend or looking at your friend's life and being like, babe, like maybe you shouldn't have done that, or maybe you should have went about this way. And I do think that the way this wrapped up was perfect. It felt really realistic, this story did, although there's some extravagant details like the whole massive $1 million wedding. Yeah, that's unrealistic, but I mean, some people could do that. I don't know. So yeah, I loved this book. This story was beautiful, and again, I will be looking for more books by this author. I think I'm gonna put this one here too. It's kind of borderline good. This was another book club thriller I read this year. The story was super interesting and it was told in an interesting way, but it really took until the 50 to 70% mark for anything to happen. Leading up to that point, it was still interesting and I was still enjoying it, but I wasn't like hooked. It wasn't doing its job of like a thriller mystery. We were kind of just building it up, which after the twist at the end or reveal or whatever, I got that. But I do think that it was still just nothing I really think about ever, and I do think at points the author was trying to do too much. It went from nothing was really happening in the first half to so much is happening. It's confusing and unrealistic, which it's a thriller, so like, is it realistic, whatever, but it was good. It was enjoyable. I did like kind of how it was told, but again, I do feel like the first half was a little too slow. This book I'm also gonna put here, I read this in my reading book talk video, which I loved that video, but this book it made me question book talk. It made me question book talk because I'm like, what the hell? This again has been a book that I've had for 4 years on my shelf and I've been putting off, not because I didn't think I would like it, but because I thought it was gonna devastate me and I was gonna like it too much. It just fell really flat for me. It was really mundane and kind of boring leading up to the end of the story, and then at the end of the story with what happens and where the story goes, it was just really rushed. With that though, the writing in this book was really interesting too. It felt very fast paced, but nothing was happening at the same time. Like, it was jumping from season to season. Like, it starts off, I think, her freshman year, and then the end of the book is the end of senior year, and we only really got snippets of the highlights of the year, like prom, Christmas, whatever. That was really interesting how it was told. So with that in mind, the ending being so fast makes sense, but also you would think it wouldn't be. I don't know. I just did not really love it. I enjoyed it, but it's not something I really think about, or I didn't really connect with the characters. Oh my gosh, this might go in all-time fave. No, yeah, that's going there. For the past couple of years, I really haven't been reading as much fantasy as I used to, and it used to be probably my main genre I read, and this book just made me want to get back into it. This is exactly what I've been needing to get back into fantasy, and this was exactly the type of fantasy I want to keep reading more of. I think that this was perfect. I mean, as you can tell, there's genuinely one other book on here that's following a male main character. Like, that's the only perspective you get, and that's Dungeon Crawler Carl, and they're both rated really highly, so I don't know what that says, but I loved our main character in this. I love following, specifically in fantasy books, like really smart main characters that are also kind of sneaky. I loved him. I think that this book was interesting from the beginning to the end, and this book felt like multiple books in one because so much happened in this book and so many different things happened, and I can't wait to read the second one. I am so excited for it, and there's so many amazing characters you meet in this book, some that also you don't like so much, and I just think that the world in this book was super interesting and well set up and thought out. This is definitely an adult fantasy, so it is a little confusing, but when I finished it, I looked it up on TikTok and saw so many recaps that really helped me understand it 100%. And like I talked about, it just has so many different fantasy elements in it. There's like this fantasy school, there's kind of like a Hunger Games trial thing, and there's just our main character being like a street fighter, whatever. So yeah, it just had so many fantasy elements like that that I absolutely loved, and yeah, it deserves to be up here. Carl's Doomsday, I'm gonna put this, I think, in good. This book, to me, it was a lot more hard to picture and confusing than the first one, which makes sense because obviously the story is developing, and I still really enjoyed it. But I think the first like setting, there's something with like clowns in this and like a circus. I don't really mess with that type of stuff, so I think that kind of like creeped me out. It's just not for me, that type of stuff, so I think that's part of it. But yeah, this one also just took me a little bit longer to get into than this one. There's nothing against it, it just wasn't. It's kind of like second book syndrome, I guess. I don't know. But I will say there are two kind of newer characters, or I guess you just see them more in this book, and that was probably my favorite thing about this book, seeing more of them in this book. I'm definitely so excited to continue it, but this one just felt slightly flat to the first one for me. Oh my gosh, I just finished this book the other day and I'm still like kind of conflicted. This is a book that it feels like a fever dream. I think that it was really well done, honestly. The way it was told was super interesting because you think it's going one way and then it's going a completely different way, and following our main character, although she was not relatable or I wasn't like envious of her life or anything, she was a really interesting character because I love following messy and kind of morally gray characters. They're just so interesting to read about. It's just interesting to not necessarily compare your life, but to be like, I would not do that, or like to think that or something like that. It's just really interesting. And the end of the book, it felt kind of unsatisfying, but I think that's the whole point. It made me think, like, I'm like, what is going on? It was really fun, and this is again kind of like a genre bending book that I've been loving, like mystery, thriller, romance, fiction, all the things, and that has been really what I've been enjoying lately. I don't think I'll think about this one too frequently, which is why it's not up higher, but I do think it's gonna cross my mind pretty frequently because I'm just like, what the hell? I kind of think if you like The Great Alone, you would like this. It's definitely different from that, but I do think there are similar characteristics between the two, so I would Honestly, really recommend this book. Metal Slinger. See, this one, like, I want to put in new all-time favorite because it's a reread. So I think I'm just gonna leave it here. I reread this so I could get to the second one. At first, I was definitely not really in the mood for this when I read it, but at the end of the book, I was so hooked. I was so into it, and I'm so excited to read the second one now. I think rereading this was a perfect decision because I forgot so much about this. So yeah, such a good time. I don't want to say too much because this is one of those books that's like, the synopsis sounds like boring, but there's actually so much going on behind the scenes, and it's like a fantasy, so you're just getting slow reveals throughout it. So yeah, this is not a new all-time fave, but still an all-time favorite. And that is the tier, I think. I feel like it looks lame. I have had just such a fun reading year this year, and I cannot wait to read more books this year because I just feel like I'm really finding my reading taste this year, and I think this list definitely shows that. I mean, we're very much, there's a lot more books on the positive side than the negative side. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your new all-time favorite books you've read this year, or just your favorite in general, because I'm looking to add to my category. I am. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.